1943, I joined the SOE. I was a secret agent. I was determined to get rid of the Nazis. They had conquered the whole of Western Europe. The least you could do is try and stop it. I was organizing resistance groups and creating all the trouble for the occupying forces that we could. Every minute when you're a secret agent is dangerous. But it's exhilarating, and for a young fellow 19, 20 years old, it's very stimulating.
June 1940. The victorious German army marches into Paris, having crushed the peoples of Western Europe, who now unsure of their fate are at the mercy of the Nazi conqueror.
This is the Place de Trocadero in Paris. In June 1940, Adolf Hitler came to this exact spot to celebrate his conquest of France. It was the beginning of the darkest days in European history. In a short period of time, Hitler's armies had enslaved tens of millions of people, and their only hope of liberation would come from the other countries, the free countries. And amongst the first liberators were agents of the Special Operations Executive, the SOE.
With the Nazi domination of Western Europe complete, Great Britain is desperate to strike back and creates a secret army, the SOE. Its mission, to organize Europe's scattered resistance groups and sabotage the German war machine, setting Europe ablaze.
The SOE would bring the war to the Germans. Their main tactic would be industrial sabotage, and their battleground would be the towns and villages and backstreets like this one of France. Amongst the SOE agents were a handful of Canadians who chose, despite the deadly risks, to come to France to raise the spirit of resistance and to give hope to occupied Europe.
The SOE recruits hundreds of volunteers, all willing to exchange their normal lives for the perilous life of a secret agent. One of the young men willing to take on this dangerous mission is a 19-year-old signalman from Saskatoon, Sirois.
When I joined the SOE, they warned me that it wasn't a piece of cake. You know, they said it could be very dangerous. Well, I was prepared to take that chance because it never crossed my mind that I wouldn't make it. The training consisted of 5 different schools. They sent me to northern Scotland and the Isle of Skye to do commander training for 6 weeks. You did exercises in unarmed combat. When that was completed, we went to Manchester for parachute training. And it took, inside of a week, we were finished with that. One thing they told you, if your shoe doesn't open, say, never mind, it's no problem. Go to the quartermaster stores, they'll give you another one. And the final school was the School of Security. They taught us how to break into houses. They taught us how to shadow people and throw people off you who are shadowing you. Coming out of there, we were in London ready to go.
November 18th, 1942. The first Canadian agent is sent to Nazi-occupied France. 38 years old and a father of 2. Montrealer Gustav Bieler proves in training to be extraordinarily calm, methodical, and coolly courageous. He quickly becomes a legend among the other agents, who will know him only as Guy. Bieler's mission is to set up a new resistance network, codenamed Musician, near the northern French city of Saint-Quentin, railway and canal transportation hub vital to the German war machine. Dressed as French laborers and armed only with pistols, Beeler and two other agents jump into the darkness over the Loire Valley region, an area occupied by thousands of German troops. Beeler crashes onto rocky ground, and now deep in enemy territory, he lies in agony, unable to walk, having shattered his spine. His fellow agents manage to smuggle Beeler to Paris, where, hiding under a false identity and desperately dodging the Germans, he slowly recuperates. And although the SOE in London offers to bring him home, Guy stays on, determined to complete his mission.
After Guy had recovered from his injuries, he came north to St. Quentin, where he met Eugene Cordelet, a very brave French resistant. Cordelet brought Guy here to Fonsomme, in fact, to this house, where they would interview men and women who would form the musician circuit. The interviews actually took place in the back garden. Guy and Cordelet set up in this backyard under a big tree, and Guy still needed a chair because his back was still giving him problems. And they interviewed men and women for the circuit. They had to be very careful who they picked. They had to find people who were trustworthy because collaboration with the Germans in 1943 was terrible. They had to pick people who understood the risks. If you got caught, you and your family could be shot. But they wanted people who were in, let's say, the railway industry, in the canals, maybe inside a German office, people who could help them with their planning of the sabotage.
One of Guy's recruits is a 22-year-old farm laborer, Raymond Bazin, who joins a team that specializes in sabotaging the many railways around St. Quentin.
Notre premier travail, c'était, on les précédait, enfin, de peu, c'était d'isoler les garde-voies. Toute la voie d'un bout à l'autre, les Boches avaient fait garder la voie par des civils. On a tombé sur des situations cocasses, on a tombé sur quelquefois des anciens copains d'école. On les ficelait, enfin, quelquefois ils se ficelaient même eux-mêmes. Alors il fallait déboulonner un rail et puis ripper le rail. Alors la locomotive, quand il arrivait, le bougie avant, il déraillait, il entraînait la locomotive, puis tout le train se couchait sur l'autre voie, on bouchait tout. C'était la grande fricassée, comme on disait.
In a few short months, the musician network derails scores of trains and cuts dozens of railway lines. Guy Beeler has quickly become one of the most successful SOE organizers in France.
One of the jobs of the organizer was to select targets for sabotage. Ideally, they would go after strategic industrial targets or ones with a maximum psychological effect. St. Quentin is a transport hub with large railways and industrial canals. And these industrial canals feed the war machine throughout France. And these presented a great opportunity for Guy and his friends.
To protect these canals that carry vital supplies to their army and submarine bases in France, the Germans ensure the vital waterways are constantly patrolled.
Well, the best way to affect traffic on the canal was to blow the locks. Guy decided, surely with planning from inside information, on when and how to attack these canal locks. One night, Guy and two other men, laying low in a rowboat, floated down the canal. They got to the lock gates and planted magnetic limpet mines along the sides of them. And a few minutes later, the gates were blown. and it was a fantastic success, and it stopped canal traffic for 6 weeks.
Outraged by constant resistance attacks, the Nazis hit back, determined to destroy the networks of the SOE. Heading the German attack is a chief of military counterintelligence in northern France, Lieutenant Colonel Hermann Giskus.
These dynamic enemy forces, whose strength was growing, didn't hesitate to carry the war behind our lines in all conceivable forms. We had to stop this invisible and dangerous enemy.
To penetrate and crush the resistance, the Germans will stop at nothing, easily resorting to torture and murder, as British SOE agent Yo Thomas discovers.
2 Gestapo men took me to a small room on the 4th floor. My handcuffs were attached to a hook at the end of a long double chain, which hung from a pulley on the ceiling. The other end was pulled and my heels left the ground. The steel of the handcuffs dug deep into my wrists, agony shot through my shoulders, and I couldn't help groaning. 5 new thugs came in. They threw me onto a table and fastened chains around my legs, and my feet were spread out. 2 men held down my arms. With rubber truncheons, the other 3 rained thudding blows on my face, legs, and body, concentrating on my testicles. I screamed until I fainted.
The life of the spy was one of constant vigilance. In 1943, there were tens of thousands of German agents, collaborators, and informants throughout France, and they're looking for anything different. One of the main things that you had to watch for was language, or really accents, because every part of France has their own accent, so your language would automatically give you away. So you wanted to talk as little as possible. Then if you had a rendezvous, there was the security checks. If you had a meeting in an apartment, drapes closed, good, open, bad. If you had to meet another agent in the streets, there was the newspaper trick. In your pocket meant bad. Under your arm meant good. To survive, you had to be lucky and you had to have nerves of steel.
As the spring of 1943 draws to a close, thousands of résistants are arrested, interrogated, and tortured as the Germans step up their campaign to crush the resistance in Europe and eliminate the agents of the SOE. Summer 1943. On select